Hey there, Jordan Schwartz with Strategic Wealth Designers, and today we're talking about how to build your financial plan. Okay, so we're talking about building a financial plan. Everybody is going to be really excited right now because you're going to see my art skills. I'm going to draw a house. It's going to be really bad, so just bear with me. So if you think about your retirement planning, I love using the analogy of the financial house, okay? See, here's what we have right here. The foundation of our house is our safe money. That's the part of your portfolio, your investments when you're financially planning. Because if you don't have your investments planned for, and yeah, maybe you've planned for health care or tax planning, but you don't have your investments taken care of, that's the quickest, fastest, and easiest way for your retirement planning to not go the way you want to. So what we need here is our safe money. Now that's anything, when I say safe, I mean it can't lose, meaning you get a -0. You don't lose a penny, it's 100% secure. The next piece of the financial house, and we could call this our walls. That's the part of the portfolio where we could take a little bit of risk with it. Maybe you want to buy a little bit of some bonds that have a little bit of risk. You want to buy some maybe preferred stocks, different types of debt instruments, maybe some real estate, maybe some commodities. That's where this goes in the portfolio right here. And then if we go on our roof, this is the part of the portfolio that should be in stocks. We'll call this our roof. That's the part of the portfolio that should be risky. Now, for those of you who like music, there's a song that says the roof is on fire. That is the vast majority of your all's portfolios because all of your money is up here in the roof. And if we go back to the three little pigs, if you build that house out of straw and the big bad wolf of the stock market comes by, he is going to blow it down. We need a strong foundation, some money in the walls, and then a little bit of money up here when it comes to retirement planning, so you know that risk money gives you the opportunity and the ability to outpace inflation. Now, if we think about it, it's not enough just to have a good portfolio. You can't just have a great investment portfolio and expect retirement to go the way that you want it to. The way I look at the rest of financial planning is the fence, right? We've got our fence right here. And the fence is all of the ancillary planning that you do in conjunction with your investments to make sure that you're well tended for. We've done a video on the 6 core things you need to do to have a successful income plan, but I'm going to repeat them here in the context of what our financial house should look like. We got 6 core things. First and foremost are the investments. Within the investments are 2 key parts: fees and risk. If you got all these good investments here, but you're paying a ton of fees, your money's not going to grow the way you need to. If you got all your money up in the roof and whenever it turns on fire, because we know the stock market does not always do what we want it to do for us, then we put ourselves in a position where those 2 things damage the entire financial plan. So within the house, we need to have our fees, know what those are. What's the most you should ever pay for those of you who have seen these videos before? Indulge me an answer. I know I can't hear you guys. 1. The most you should ever pay is 1%. Then we think about risk. If you're outside of 10 years from retirement, risk is your friend, not your enemy. You should be living more in the roof. If you're within 10 years from retirement, this should be a lot bigger than this right here. Then if we think about what goes around the financial house to give you the right type of fencing that you need, we've got tax planning. If we think about where the direction of taxes are going, we got 2 options: up or down. You cannot print trillions and trillions of dollars and not expect taxes to rise in the future. If we look at things like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, interest on the debt, as we move into the future, the statistics at some point in the future are going to point to, I believe it's 2025, about 80% of our nation's budget is going to be towards that. You got 20% to pay for everything else. You have schools, roads, parks, SEC, Congress, all these different things, everything we have to pay for, and not enough money to pay for it with it. We got to be tax efficient. Next piece right here, we have healthcare planning. Healthcare planning is very important. If you look at long-term care events, people are living longer. If you look at a long-term care event, oftentimes you need $50,000 to $100,000 a year if you want to have a really, really nice way of supplying where you're living and where you're going to be. If you want to spend less, then the government will potentially put you in somewhere and you don't get to pick. So healthcare planning, 50 to 100 grand. Keep this in mind. A long-term care event typically lasts between 3 to 5 years. If you need 100 grand a year, that's $500,000. A lot of people don't have that saved up. Healthcare planning. So fees, risk, taxes, healthcare. This is a biggie right here. Income planning. If you try to go through retirement without air traffic control up in the air when you're flying that plane, you are going to run into something. We've got to make sure that we have an income plan that protects us. 4 variables within income planning. We have portfolio rebalancing. We have, as well as that too, inflation, longevity, and sequence of return risk. Inflation and sequence of return are the 2 biggies. We got to make sure we're planning for inflation, because if we don't, you think about a financial house right here, inflation is the radon in your house. It's the silent killer. You got to make sure you're paying attention to that. And the last thing right here, because again, we've got fees, risk, taxes, healthcare, income planning. Another big one I oftentimes like to look at, it's estate planning. If leaving a legacy is important to you, if it's important to your loved ones, if you don't have an estate plan in place, you may end up going to probate court. And if you haven't heard of probate court, it's a bunch of people sit up in a big boardroom in a big tall building in downtown determining the fate of your investments. And here's the problem. It doesn't always go to the people that you want to. If you want to make sure that this financial house and this fence goes to the people that you want to, estate planning is the name of the game. If you look at certain things like a long-term care event, you can potentially sometimes shield your assets from that through different types of estate planning. We want to make sure that's an integral part to make sure that if you get sued, as an example, if your assets were in an estate, it can be protected from that. So we've got to look at all 6 of these different things and stop just focusing on the investments and get going with the planning. Guys, this was awesome. I love talking about this stuff. If you'd like more of this, give us a thumbs up and a like below, subscribe, and we'll see y'all soon.